Hi, JPO here again. I'm doing the discussion about grit jumps from more from a engineering standpoint and why it matters, especially the jump from the mid-range stones and to the finishing stones, and why it might make a lot of sense to spend a little money on these intermediate stones and not just focus on the finishing stones. So if you most people that have been honing for a while know this already, so it's more focused on the beginners who usually want to have a bevel setter and maybe jump to mid-range stone and maybe a finishing stone, and some just want to spend all the time and money on the finishing stone without going through all the steps. So if you ask someone with experience, they will usually tell you to set the bevel and move up in grits and spend enough time on the mid-range stone to really set up the edge for the final finish. And that's if you follow the steps, then you really don't need to do much more, as long as you are able to erase all the work or the scratches from each steps. But one of the issues is as you progress from 1K to, if you want to jump to 6, pen isn't working, to 6K, you can see this is the particle sizes and relative size, and this is from Chapman, by the way. But as you can see, if you go from 1K all the way to 6K without anything in between, it's you're making it a lot harder for yourself than you need to, and it really makes a lot of sense to put in something in between here. I like to use a 3K, but you can also use 2K to 4K and to 8K, and because as you can see, if you set the bevel on a 1K and the scratches go deep into the material, but this is just the visible scratch, but there below this there's also subsurface damage that occurs. So below the striations there is brittle material. That's ideally you want to be in this area of the curve, because now this is what was referred to as fresh steel, and as you move into this part, the steel becomes brittle, and it's not behaving ideally for a straight razor. So down here you have the fresh steel that you need to this is the scratch, and below that you have the strain hardened material, and to erase all that to get down to the fresh steel, you as you see, you need to remove more steel than just the visible scratch. So and this is how what you can see here is so if you go to 1K and move one big jump up to 6K, and then you're at this stage you don't do enough work, and when you get to your finishing stone, your material will actually be in this range. So it's now brittle, hard, and the damage that you actually created on the 1K is, even if it's not visible, you still have brittle material that makes it a lot harder than it needs to be on your finishing stone. So it makes a lot of sense to add a stone in between here to minimize this effect. But you're not. There will always be some strain hardening and brittleness, but the problem is that sometimes it's actually caused by the damage created already at the bevel setting stage. So when you look into a microscope, you see shadows of the remaining damage from the 1K, especially higher up on the bevel. That actually usually means that you haven't gotten down to fresh steel, and the edge starts to chip out, and it becomes a problem. So, and this usually also, if you get a new razor that comes from the factory, the bevel is set with a coarse wheel or something, and you're probably, most of the steel is already in the brittle state. So when you just use a finishing stone, then you can erase the visible striation, but underneath that visible striation there is still brittle material that will start to fail and chip out as you try to get a finished edge. So, and this also, especially if you're working with hard brittle steel like you get from Thiers Desard or even a Korat razor with really brittle steel, it's this effect is even more pronounced. So a softer steel is a little more forgiving, but still you need to. It even makes sense to if you're not doing a lot of correction work to start at a 2K stone or even a 3K, because even if this 2K is almost half the size in particle size as the 1K, the 1K doesn't cut twice as fast. So yeah, I don't use the 1K really that much, just for correction and chip removal and stuff like that. So what I usually do is to go from 1K to, if I need to, 3K, 6K, and a 10K, and then you can go to finishing option after this. Either might make sense to add one additional step here, but as you can see from the chart here, it's I think the binder is also playing a part here when you go up in grits, and as you move up in grits, I think this issue is it gets smaller and smaller as long as you have sorted out all your issues at this stage. So yeah, so if you ask someone experienced, they will usually tell you to spend more time than you think you need, especially up to 5 or 6K. But if you jump from 1K all the way up to 5 or 6, then you risk working with brittle steel if you don't do enough work. So you can do it, but it's not that easy to know when you have moved past this strain hardened steel. You can see it when you hone, because the stone will you will get less load up on the stone, and it will feel different. But it takes a little experience to actually know what to look for, and even then it's all the scratches are gone, but still you're not through the bad steel. So if you get really inconsistent results, sometimes you get a really nice edge and sometimes you don't, and usually the issue is, if you have figured out the first step, it's usually not spending enough time here, or skipping this step altogether, and then it's more or less 50-50 if you get issues at the tail end of the progression. So this is just a engineering assessment of what might be things especially new guys struggle with, because they usually don't want to spend money and time on this, and they don't have the experience to judge how much work they need to do on the 6K. So the end result is usually a little inconsistent, and you end up with chipping issues at the tail end of the progression. So this is just back to, this is from the Science of Sharp blog, but it shows that the scratch from the particle this direction, and the area underneath here, the pink area, is brittle steel that you need to get as much of as possible in the progression, but it's you never achieve it 100%, but it's the material is much more brittle, especially just below the bottom of the scratch. Yeah, and then the fracture. The fracture toughness, that is actually the area underneath this curve, the stress versus strain curve. So a more brittle material has a more steep rise here, but the area under the curve is quite might be smaller than a more ductile, softer steel. So you really don't need to know anything about this to hone a razor, but if you want to you just need to know that there's a big, already from 1K to 2K there's a relatively big grit jump, and so it might make sense to even after 1K add in some work on 2K before you progress. Or as I like to do, I like to just skip the 1K, because if I'm not in a hurry or need to do a lot of work. So I'm not sure if this is clarifies anything, but just a short discussion. yeah, I know honing today, but you can really see this, feel this after you get some experience. And you get if you get a lot of load up in swarf, especially at 6 or 8k or 8k, then yeah, you need to go back, because the brittle hard material releases a little more swarf, or it behaves a little different, but yeah, but you don't need to know this to hone a racer. You just need to know that it can make sense to, if you're struggling, to add in 3 or 4k in the middle here, or at least don't go from the 1k to the 5 or 6k. You know, and if you do, you need to factor in to do a lot more work, and even when the scratches from the 1k is gone, then you might still actually just be working with bad brittle steel. So, and this also goes back to the, if you get on a new racer from the manufacturer, it's the steel will be in this condition, and it's just spending a lot of time on the finishing stone is just like salmon swimming against the stream. So yeah, just my 2 cents on the subject. Yeah, thank you for watching.